plays, we'd like to invite you to just close your eyes, relax, rest in the presence, and hold space.
Gam Ganapataye
Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that literally means community of truth. It applies to any time two or more people who are on the spiritual path of awakening and the flowering of the heart come together to share their journeys, to share their graces, their breakthroughs, their insights, their challenges to uphold one another. Whenever we come together in community with others who are awakening, that's a satsang. It's a really important, the word's not important, but that we do that is essential to our spiritual journeys. We need to join together, especially at this time on this planet. There is so much going on that could scare the heck out of just about anybody. But somehow, when we come together, our inner vision, our connection with the divine source is strengthened and deepened, and we sense that it's all going to be okay, that all we need to do is trust. And that's the truth. So, welcome. The world needs to awaken. Without much of an explanation, it's obvious. We have a global civilization of competition, conflict, violence, and war. And it's been going on for countless thousands of years, all of currently known human history. There were things going on before all that, but everything we know about has just been filled with struggle, conflict, violence, and it needs to stop. There's so many of us on this planet. It's the environment is challenged and everything else. The answer is not a new religion. It's not a new philosophy of life. It's not some new political platform. The only thing that can change the world as it is now is for humanity to awaken. And the only way for that to happen is literally spiritual awakening of the human spirit, the human heart. When that happens, when the veil drops away, we discover the truth that we never actually existed as separate individuals. We're part of a whole, oneness that permeates the entire universe, one consciousness, one love, one being, expressing itself through everything and everyone. When the veil falls away from our eyes, we look into each other's eyes and we see ourselves looking back at us, because we are actually one and the same being, manifesting as you, manifesting as me, manifesting as Suzanne. The awakening is that we're one. When that happens, fear disappears. I'm not afraid of you because you're me. And we would never hurt ourselves or each other. And a new civilization will emerge on this planet that's rooted in cooperation instead of competition, harmony instead of conflict, and peace instead of war. The answer that will bring that about is the collective awakening of humanity. That is achieved one being at a time, one person at a time. Awakening is slowly shifting the cosmic teeter-totter of humanity. When enough of us, see, awakening, an awakened consciousness is contagious. We know negativity is contagious. We know fear and delusion and all of those things are way too contagious. When a very negative person walks in the room, we feel that heaviness. When an enlightened being walks in the room, we feel uplifted. Well, so that's how it works. And that's why in ages past, when very, very bright beings incarnated were born in human form in this world, they were often oppressed and martyred, assassinated. I mean, I think everyone knows, except those that deny that it ever happened, know that's the story of Christ. We know that's what happened to Mahatma Gandhi. Fewer people know that Buddha died of being poisoned. And you could go down the list from great saints to just earth shakers like Martin Luther King Jr. and other great light showers that challenged humanity with a broader view and more light. That was threatening to the status quo. Human beings collectively don't like change. And individually, we probably don't like it that much either. So these great light showers gave us this blast of insight, and we had a choice. We either had to respond and change the way we're seeing the world and living in the world, or we needed to cover our ears and our eyes and remove those individuals from the scene, which is what used to happen. Now the great thing about the time we're living in is there's so many of us who have awakened, and so many more who are in the process of awakening, that there's no way to stop it. It's spreading like it's the most contagious epidemic on the planet is awakening and the flowering of the heart. So, welcome aboard. Glad you're here tonight. Please, because I see that there are more of us here than I see likes or loves, hit that little heart down there at the bottom, or thumbs up, or whatever you've got on your screen if you're at Facebook Live, so we can see later on who dropped in. We love to see your names, and it really warms our hearts, because sometimes we haven't seen some of you in a while, and anyway, whenever we see anybody's name up there, we send you extra hugs and blessings and love. So do that. If you're watching at Vimeo, you would need to make a comment in the chat, especially if you're using an online ID that's something like Enlightenment, the light. If you just say who you are, then I can look on Vimeo too and see who is there. So I don't think there's any real news.
No.
I mean, other than the general news. I mean, we come together in these Flowering Heart Satsangs from many different countries and continents and parts of the world. I know More Aranda is with us, and there's her name, says namaste, and she's in Colombia tonight. So there's lots going on all over the world. We understand that. This webcast originates in the United States, and this is the eve of big elections. So even if you're completely not involved, which if you're here, that would be too bad, because it's great if everybody takes their place, but you could feel the tension in the air. It's so thick you could cut it with a knife, you know. So we're sending peace and blessing, divine wisdom and guidance for all whose hearts are open to be guided. And I'm sure all is well and all will be well. So what we do is we open it to questions and answers. If there are any questions about the spiritual journey, things you might be experiencing, perhaps an insight you want to share, maybe you got enlightened since last week and you'd like to share that with us. That would be fun. Or anything else. It doesn't always have to be a problem, but often sharing our challenges that we're experiencing in our meditation practice or our spiritual journey is helpful to everyone. Because even though it's true that each of our journeys is unique, I mean, you can't do exactly what I've done and expect the same result. And I can't do exactly what you do. But in the course of our journeys, no matter what tradition we're from and background we're from, we go through many parallel experiences and challenges. And when we share that with our communities, not only do we get insight that helps us deal with it, but it helps everybody. So feel free. I see there are also some comments and maybe questions already up there.
Nice.
So, and then later on, Flowering Heart Blessing. We're sharing throughout the satsang. We began before the talk began. To flow to you the Flowering Heart Blessing. Hridaya, Vikasa, Diksha, if you love Sanskrit. But all it means is Flowering Heart Blessing. And it's a form of transmission of divine awareness, of enlightened consciousness, unconditional love, and grace that catalyzes in us the process of awakening, melts blocks, sort of greases the work so the journey's a little smoother and a little quicker. In some cases, a lot quicker. Blessing from the divine, and there are many forms of that on the planet now, and there have been for countless millennia. But it used to be really hard to find someone who could give it, would give it, and get them to give it to you. We live in a time where blessing is just flowing, and so many different kinds. But the Flowering Heart blessing, when the divine gave it to us 7+ years ago, said, this blessing is directly from me. It does not flow through a master or a saint or an avatar or a spiritual hierarchy or an organization. It's my gift to humanity. And it's a gift. It's grace. So don't charge people for it. Just give it to them. And tell them that when they've received the Flowering Heart blessing, not only does a catalyst that's going to accelerate their journey to awakening happen, but you are activated and initiated to be able to share this blessing with others. And you don't need to know how to do it. All you need to do is, if someone's in your presence, in your physical presence, explain that the divine pours this blessing through you. If they want it, it's going to change them. If they're at a distance in prayer or meditation, you just hold them in your heart. You don't even need to tell them about it. Just ask the divine to flow the Flowering Heart blessing to whoever you're holding in your heart in meditation or prayer. And that's it. We just offer ourselves to the divine as an instrument of grace. We invite the divine to pour the grace through us that this individual or group need most to help them awaken and transform, and then we just get out of the way, and the divine does all the rest. There's a great video, well, I think it's great. It's 36 minutes long. It's an explanation of Flowering Heart blessing and an initiation meditation that's guided, that turned out to be just really powerful. Every so often, Suzanne and I listen to it, and we get zapped. So feel free to use that. Start a blessing group in your community. If there isn't one you already enjoy and go to, just invite one other person. Plug in and turn on your computer, go to floweringheart.org and play that video. 36 minutes later, everybody's giving blessing. It's nice. So we'll be offering later on, after we look at some of the questions and comments, some very powerful directed intent blessings for the needs you brought with you here tonight. But the blessing is flowing to you now. You are soaking in it. So soak it in, take it in, and join us, since you've now received it, in inviting the divine to pour the blessing through you to all the other participants. The more that you give, the more you receive. The more that you give the blessing, the divine works through you as it's flowing through you to another person. So, go for it. See what we got.
Wow.
So, Michael Christopher writes, how is the divine with helping someone that has mental health issues, anxiety, depression, OCD, etc.? The divine is awesome. I mean, I think, and I don't mean to be too flippant about it, but I think the whole human race has mental health issues. I think that the delusion of ego, of separate existence, of me, I'm more important than you, and my desires are what matter, even if it damages the planet and damages the community, that's really sick. But in a more concrete example, an awakening does away with that. So the divine is all about awakening people from delusion, anxiety, certainly. Perfect love would be a great description of the divine presence. And perfect love in Scripture says drives out, dissolves, and removes fear. I think that takes care of anxiety and brings peace that passes all understanding. If you were to read about the ministry of the God-man, Jesus Christ, kind of partial to him, but I love all the rest too. But when you read about the ministry and the life of Jesus, and in his human form, it was only 3 years long, but it said he went everywhere healing the sick and releasing those that were bound by, it gives it different names, but basically mental illness and darkness, as well as affliction by dark forces in the universe. But he definitely spent a lot of time helping people that were in worse than just anxiety and depression, people that were absolutely insane and crazed. And just with a single word, that would vanish. And peace of mind and stability and clarity would come to people. So the divine's great with it. I think that receiving the flowering heart blessing is really a great gift that brings peace to people who are troubled with anxiety and depression and OCD. It brings them right into the presence, into a place of peace and release. But so does meditation, and so does prayer. I think any direct contact with the divine presence, not just ritual and religious ideology and all of that, but really openness to just experience melting in the presence brings healing to all of that.
Yeah, I really feel like there's just so many people in the world that don't have a connection with the divine, haven't experienced the divine, haven't felt that peace that passes all understanding, because we simply don't know how to. And we've been programmed to be in the mind and the ego and to keep feeding that. And I think that, that's very unbalanced mentally, because the mind is all about control and chaos and disorder and worry and thinking about the future and thinking about the past. And like Michael said, probably most of us have some kind of a mental disorder at some degree. But the more we can connect with the divine and have trust and faith and unconditional love in our hearts, then we start to be able to more easily reach out to other people that would maybe want to experience peace also. So the more of us that look at our own mental health and look at our own judgment and criticism and doubt and fear and worry, it makes more room for us to hold space for others when we've overcome those obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but honestly, meditation, a meditation practice, and guided meditation can be helpful. I get this with a lot of people when I talk about meditation. They want a video, or they want an audio recording, or they want visualizations that someone else is guiding, like if we were to take you through Hridaya or Ananda Mandala. Very powerful practices, but mostly I'm talking about where you just sit for at least 20 minutes and close your eyes and just let it all go. And every time your mind latches onto something, just gently release it. Now, a mantra or a sacred word or something can be helpful to release that mental material, but it's returning to just resting in the presence and letting it all be. Everything is fine. There's nothing missing in this present moment. All is well. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to figure out. There's nothing to attain. Just let it be for 20 minutes. And if you can make a practice of that, it will dramatically change your consciousness. Sometimes in meditation, we get stuck on the practice, the breathing, or the mantra, or the visualization. And all of those are just means to an end. And the end is empty, open, luminous awareness, where there's nothing to do. But what about, no problem. No problem here, nothing to fix. But there's a lot later, but for 20 minutes, there's just nothing but rest and be. And the difference between that and sleep or self-hypnosis is that the mind is fully conscious and aware of what's going on. So I highly recommend that. So, hi Danielle, sending prayers and gratitude. Same back at you. Okay, Tristan writes, is it possible to see the future or other worldly planets when having a near-death experience, or even UFOs? In a word, yes.
Anything's possible.
I mean, typically in near-death experiences, people enter a tremendously altered state of consciousness that is open to the unknown, open certainly to astral planes, celestial planes, more or less out of the body, and more or less out of the mind, somewhere in transition. And so to see the future can often happen. It may be gifted as a vision. I've had experiences where the divine, I had one in particular where the divine pulled back the veil and showed me the next 10 years of my life. And I just, wow. And it was as close to a near-death, I mean, I thought it was, to me it was a near-death experience because I left my body and left the world and I thought I was dead. And I was face to face before the light. And so, yes, the divine can gift that. But also, one of the in-between places between earthly consciousness and divine consciousness is astral, the astral planes. And things happen on the astral plane often or always, I don't know, who can say. But things tend to happen on the astral plane before they manifest here. It's like things originate in spirit, and then the manifestation moves through all these denser planes till it becomes manifest in the physical world. So if you're on the astral plane, and I think there are many of them, it's not uncommon to see something that's about to happen or may be happening down the road. Which one of the great things about that is, if you don't like what you're seeing and it hasn't manifested here yet, there may be the possibility to change the path you're on. A Stairway to Heaven said. Wild song, but in that song, one of the lyrics is it's not too late to change the path you're on. And if we can even make that statement, it's not too late. So to see the future can be very helpful. In my case, that 10 years that I was shown were just so amazingly good, some of the things that the divine was going to do, that it would have been hard for me to believe it and cooperate if I hadn't been given a glimpse. And then as each thing began to unfold and come true, I went, wow, there it is. That's what the divine told me. Seeing other worldly planets, sure. There's a lot going on in the universe. There are a lot of places. There are other planes, dimensions, lokas, the Hindus call it. Tibetans call them bardos. We probably call them dimensions. But there are a lot of other worlds. And when you're in a near-death experience, you're kind of betwixt and between. So you can see many, many possible things. UFOs? Well, what are they? Unidentified flying objects. There are a lot of things that fly in the universe. There are a lot of beings that fly in the universe, especially. And besides eagles and hawks and condors, there are, and airplanes and the kind of things we have on Earth, there are beings that fly. And you may have experienced it in a dream, which I would suggest, if you've experienced flying in a dream, that is probably an astral experience. And it's common. So UFOs, all it means is it's an object and it's flying and it's unidentified to you. But if you're talking about extraterrestrials, beings from other civilizations in the universe that have craft they fly around in, why not?
I remember when digital cameras were relatively new, and when we would take pictures in different places of worship, or even just around the house or anywhere out in nature, we would get these orbs, and I loved to put them on my computer and blow them way up, zoom way in on them, and you could actually see beings inside of these orbs, and you could see their faces, or you could see them sitting, or it's really bizarre. So like Michael said, there's a lot of different dimensions and things that we don't know about that are all possible when we're not anchored in the mind.
In the Hebrew scriptures, it says Ezekiel, one of the greatest prophets of all time, Ezekiel saw a wheel within a wheel, and there were eyes like windows, like portholes all around. And wherever these angels moved, because he was seeing angels, these things traveled with them, and their spirits were within those craft. A lot of people have read that and gone, well, that's a flying saucer, and actually something like that. At the end of his life, Elijah, well, no, it wasn't, because he didn't die. Elijah was one of the rare ones that was actually caught up in spirit, transcended, and ascended with his body alive. But it says that this golden fiery chariot descended from heaven and picked Elijah up. And this was in front of hundreds of witnesses. It was in broad daylight. And this golden chariot of fire picked Elijah up and carried him into the heavens. I wonder what that was. And you know, I admit I've seen them. So I believe that. There's a word that you may have heard. It's actually a Hebrew word, although people try to attribute it to other places. Merkaba. Merkaba, something that Drunvalo Melchizedek, the little tree, has taught about over the years much. But Merkaba literally means chariot in Hebrew. It's a craft. It's a vehicle. And the Merkaba is a spiritual, energetic vehicle in which the human spirit and soul can move through dimensions and through the universe, guided by intention. It's pretty fascinating stuff. So, sure, I would expect as time goes on and our consciousness expands into higher planes of vision that we'll see more and more of that. This is when I always throw in the caution that on the spiritual journey, the advice I would give is seek the light directly. Don't seek astral worlds and exploring other universes, because there's a lot of weird stuff out there too. And you need to have wisdom, you need to have guidance. That's why many of the great travelers in the spirit world have guides, very powerful, enlightened guides that live in spirit, that help them direct their journey. But Buddhist teachers often say, disregard all that. Visions, bah, it's just food for the mind. In fact, for the spiritual ego. For an old mentor of mine, a Tibetan Buddhist, his teacher, anyway, in meditation one day, a golden Buddha came to him and, interacted with him. And he went to his teacher, and his teacher, and he said, I saw a golden Buddha in meditation today. His teacher practically smacked him. Disregard feelings and visions and voices, and just go for the empty, luminous, infinite expansion of the One. Then, once you're awakened and illumined to that empty, infinite space, then you might be directed to have certain work or journeying in other worlds. But I recommend go direct first. Just some advice. Okay, so Danielle says, practicing surrender instead of resistance has been bringing me the freedom I've prayed for. Thank you for holding space for my healing and deepening my heart's understanding of what it is to surrender.
Yay.
Yeah. Danielle's heard us say so many times that basically the cause of all psychological suffering is resistance. It's hard not to resist certain things. I mean, if someone's really bumming you out or insulting you, or there's a very difficult situation, thing you don't want to feel, it's hard not to resist. But everything you resist will persist. It's knocking at your door for a reason. I'm not saying let yourself be abused or hurt. No, not at all. But when certain emotional charges and patterns keep presenting themselves to you in life, and you resist them and suppress them, they persist and they keep coming back, knocking at the door of consciousness. Suffering is caused by resisting experience. When we stop resisting, and I'm not saying you gotta like it, but when you just stop resisting what is the reality of the present moment, then that psychological suffering, and I'm talking not about physical suffering, psychological suffering is all caused by resisting experience. Stop resisting, and what was causing suffering and conflict, which is incredibly draining of your energy, gives way to peace, inner peace, bliss, openness. And it's surrender. That's a journey. I highly recommend. John Lewis writes, after having my first very powerful spiritual experience, my thought was that if everyone knew what was on the other side, that there's nothing to fear. That is the answer. Yeah, right. Why doesn't God just pull back the veil for a second, John, and show us all? I mean, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. And that happens to a lot of us in near-death experiences or enlightenment experiences. We see the perfection of it all, and that there's nothing at all to fear.
The funny thing is that that's the reality all the time, but we've blocked it. We've blocked from seeing it, and sometimes it takes something pretty dramatic to, open our eyes to see things in a different way, or it could be more gentle. It can be, just persistent growth and connecting with the divine.
So I want to answer my own question. Why doesn't the divine just then give everybody a second on the other side to see there's absolutely nothing to fear and where all this is going? Well, faith, trust. I mean, when you absolutely know it, you don't need to believe it. Why would I believe something that I absolutely know and have experienced? I don't need to. I know that now. There's nothing to fear. But most of us learn that in a process, as Suzanne just mentioned, a process of not being able to see, of being blinded, and needing to trust ever more deeply the Spirit, the presence that is guiding us. And that's, for most people, that's a lot about what the journey of being human in this world is about, is learning to trust and surrender and let go when it doesn't feel right and it doesn't look right. In fact, we can't see anything at all. So you're very fortunate to have been given that gift of no fear, and be grateful every second. Okay, Steve Deeb, hi, says, my haiku, you are Christ for me. All the rest I forget. Thank you, my brothers. It's a good one. Mm-hmm. You are Christ for me. Yep. Which makes you want to tell real quick my little story from India. One of my favorite scriptures is where Christ said, however you treat one of the least of my brothers and sisters, that's how you treat me. And there will be people, when it's all over, who said, you didn't help me when I was in prison. You didn't feed me when I was hungry. You didn't minister to me when I was sick. You didn't clothe me when I was naked. You know, what kind of connection do you think we have? And then there are these other people, and he says, you know, when I was in prison, you visited me. When I was sick, you ministered to me. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was when I was naked, you clothed me. And they turned to him in astonishment and go, when did we ever do anything for you, Lord? These are people that had no connection they were aware of and never did anything for the Lord. And he said, as you did it to the least, as you did it for the drunks, the prostitutes, the broken people, the outcasts, the street people, you were doing that to me. So he was saying that the measure of our relationship with God is not how we treat the famous, not how we treat a great saint or a great spiritual teacher. It's how we treat the lowly and the outcast and the marginalized that is really our connection to Christ. So I was in India. There was this person I was really having a hard time with. She just always would come to the table during a shared meal with others and create some kind of divisiveness, unsettledness, you know, it just problems. And so I was wanting to resist her, avoid her, and I was starting to avoid her presence, you know, and sit somewhere else, and oh no, there she is again. And one morning we were being led in this process of giving worship flowers and lovely things to our personal divine. And so I was doing that to Christ. And Jesus turned to me and said, what are you doing? I don't need flowers at my feet. I mean, thanks, but if you really want to do something for me as you do it to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you're doing it for me. And I was like, oh, I had this great revelation. I was just in bliss. Okay, the process ended and we were on our way to lunch. And I'm walking alone, just enjoying this, the presence of Christ and what I already knew this, but he drove it home more than ever. Because I don't care to get caught up in rituals and too much incense and flower petals and all that. It's fun, it's nice, but the measure is how you treat people. And I was aware behind me, way behind me, comes this person that I resisted. This person I didn't want to see at all. I was in a good space, and every time this person came around, it went away. And sure enough, I went, let her walk past, let her walk past. She just walked up next to me and walked next to me for a few minutes. And while she's walking with me, she took my hand and leaned her head on my shoulder. And I went, what? What is going on, you know? And I turned and I looked at her, and I looked into her eyes, and Jesus spoke to me through her eyes and said, this is me too. Boom! And that lady became like the person I most wanted to see for the rest of that process in India. So, great haiku. You are Christ for me. Okay, Saiban writes, I was heading over to Scotland for a few days, and I went into a meditation state. God showed me all different gargoyles and symbols. So when I got to Scotland, there I saw, as I got close to the castle, it was exactly what God showed me. It was amazing. Probably helped you not be scared when you saw them too, right? Cool. Joanne Corbett writes, Mirabai Devi teaches about that. I'm not sure which that, but Merkaba, I agree, and Joanne goes on, Merkaba, I agree, don't worry about the magic, it comes and goes. Yeah. 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 Although, I'm wanting to say this is all magic. This is all magic. Albert Einstein, you know, who wasn't really that much into God, but certainly he was into everything, said, okay, there are two ways you can look at miracles. either nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. He said, I choose the latter. I choose to believe that everything is a miracle. It's like, yeah. Our sense of it being magical and special and wonderful, that comes and goes for sure. And sometimes it seems like the magical light just goes out. But even that's magic. Trust, behind the veil, hiding in the shadow, is the one. So, great stuff, guys and gals.
Really great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Yekaterina writes on Vimeo, hello, hi. I hope I could see Jesus in my mother and father. I feel a lot of resentment toward them sometimes. Yes, well, if we had longer, I could lead you through the parent process, the healing of relationships. But yes, that's a good prayer, to see the divine in your mother and your father. But that requires feeling your hurt. You've got to feel your hurt. If you resist the hurt, it continues to dwell within you in your pain body. This is what Eckhart Tolle talks about. When you embrace your hurt and fully experience it, even though it's a painful memory per se, it doesn't cause pain in the here and now to you. And forgiveness is natural and spontaneous. And in that place of forgiveness, you may, as you awaken more deeply, see that your mother and your father are manifestations of Christ. Everything is a manifestation of the divine presence. And when the resistance and the veils fall away, we see the light shining through all these difficult relationships in the same way I saw it shining through that lady in India. And I pray that you have that experience as well. Wow!
Awesome.
Cool beans. Magic beans.
Yes. Magic questions and observations.
So just close your eyes if they're still open. And in your spiritual heart, in the center of your being, invoke the divine presence. Invite the divine to take you, to free you, to awaken you, to transform you. The presence within you is the center of your being. It is your true sacred self. It is your essential true nature. And it is pure love. It is all powerful, all wise, all loving. It loves you unconditionally, exactly as you are, with all your perceived faults, imperfections, quirks. The divine takes you just as you are right now. There is no distance, no separation. Allow and receive. Allow the divine to embrace you, to flood you with light and love and grace. Just drink it in and receive it. The presence knows what you need right now. hands with your palms open, facing forward, and just allow and invite the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through you to all the others in the circle. Know that it's flowing back to you through them as well. Visualize a beautiful blue planet, the planet Earth, in the middle of our circle. And let us take a strong intent for healing and peace throughout the earth. Relax your hands, and when you're ready, open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes during the light meditation. During this meditation, Suzanne and I are flooded with divine grace. And it begins to pour through every fiber of our being to you, especially through the eyes, which mystics have called the doorways of the soul. The light streams through our eyes, into your eyes, through your eyes, into your heart, causing the flames, the light of divine love and presence and awareness to burn ever more brightly within you. There's nothing to do but just keep looking and allow. as long as it feels nice to you. Or lie down nearby in Shavasana. That's to lie on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, and just let yourself dissolve in the presence of gratitude. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until we meet again, know that the divine within us beholds the divine within you, and we bow to you. Namaste.